What is the forgotten adoption option? Many are aware of infant international adoption, where you hire an agency, often wait a long time, and spend tens of thousands of dollars. And then there's becoming a foster parent, where you may or may not adopt the children. But there is a third option, where you adopt children directly from the foster care system. I call this the forgotten adoption option. In fact, 30% of children currently in foster care are adoptable, and you don't need to be a traditional foster parent to adopt them. Hi there, I am Marcy Bursack. After blogging my experience adopting a pair of biological siblings through the foster care system, people started asking me to explain the process to them. And it's difficult to navigate, but the families I mentor feel that knowing the barriers, the challenges, and what to expect has actually helped them persevere and pursue their dream of adopting. And while I would love to have a really big family, adopting thousands of children isn't exactly realistic, but I can teach others how. Whether you're trying to figure out how to get started, you're battling some doubts and fears, or maybe you know someone who wants to adopt, I'm here with resources to help others discern if foster care adoption is the path for them. And if it is, I have practical tips and resources for them as well. You can find all of these resources, which include my blog, 3 books, an app, and a classroom lesson at forgottenadoptionoption.com. However you found this podcast, I am so glad that you did. I want to extend an invitation to you to reach out to me to ask anything on your heart. My goal is to help every waiting child be in their forever family. And that's why I host this podcast. Welcome to the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast. In this episode, you'll hear about the realities of the foster care system and human trafficking overlapping. I've been following the Wake Up movie on Instagram for quite some time. The story is an important one to be told. So my family actually made a financial gift towards the film, and my husband and I got to stream the film and found it very, very, very eye-opening. And at points, we actually had to press pause about what we were seeing. My husband's very empathetic, and so we needed to pause and talk. So just heads up on all of this. So desiring to share the powerful message of this conversation starting movie with you, I invited Janet Craig, who directed Wake Up, to come and share her perspective with all of us. So hey, Janet.
Hey, Marcy. Thanks for having me.
So amazing. I'm so excited to share this with you. So Janet wrote and directed Wake Up. You'll actually see her in it as well. She's experienced as a foster mom. She has a degree in theater. She was a professional tennis player, and she's a veteran actress. She's amazing. What we can now stream and find on DVD and Blu-ray is a result of what she'll share with us is over 7 years of work, including filming during the pandemic. So before we get started, listeners, I want to let you know this content in the episode is meant for mature ears. So please think about who's around you. I recognize the subject of human trafficking itself can be uncomfortable, and it can also be a trigger. So I just want to encourage you to be thoughtful about your needs and where you play this content. So all that disclaimer, let's dive right in, Janet. So maybe we should level set by helping our listeners know when we say human trafficking, what are we saying?
So human trafficking is the exploitation through force, fraud, or coercion of another human being. So what happens I'll give you just one example. So let's say some young child or teen puts some images out on the internet, someone asks them for those images and then shares those images. That's trafficking. Anyone under 18, it's always considered trafficking. And so it happens in labor, and it also happens in sex trafficking.
Not an easy or light topic, but one that's all around us. And so I don't want to give away too much of the film, but we want to tell them about what's going on kind of in the film. So you both directed and starred in it. To me, that's a whole lot of hats to wear. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it really was a mountaintop experience for me to be able to do this movie. It was a passion project that I was so excited to be a part of. And so because I was directing and acting, I knew that I had to be super prepared, because as an actor, you take on the role and sort of immerse yourself in that. But as a director, you're watching everything. So I storyboarded the entire film and walked it through with one of my colleagues who was the unit production manager on the film. I call him my Swiss Army knife, and he storyboarded the whole thing. And we walked through the shots. And then we were able to shoot it with it already having sort of been run through one time with me. But it is interesting to set up a shot and then run in front of the camera. It's a whole different world. But it was probably the most fun I've ever had on set.
Which is amazing because you're playing so many hats. So some of our listeners might be like, okay, so we get that we're talking about human trafficking, and then you said foster care. So Janet, do you want to kind of give a little teaser of what is the film about?
Yeah, so it's how lives intersect and impact each other in the terrifying world of human trafficking. And in America, foster youth are the most trafficked. It's over 65%, they say. Percentages change all the time, but vulnerable youth are who's being trafficked more often than not. So 12 to 14-year-olds and through the foster system. So I happen to be a foster mom, and so it's personally important to me, and just wanted to share how it's happening all over America. I wanted to show how it's happening next door. So I wanted to show how each of us could be involved in this. And I like surprises in movies, so I wanted edge of your seat kind of stuff, suspense. And so that's sort of what we did, I think.
So incredible. So when, and we have a listener that's thinking, okay, she's at 65%, and we know the numbers might be changing, but is 65% of the children being trafficked or of the children in the foster care system?
So what happens is, of children who've been in foster care or are in foster care, the majority of traffic victims come through that, having come through that system. Because if you think about it, vulnerability is in that, because it takes one caring, compassionate adult to change the life of a child. It really does. Both of you and I are both adoptive foster parents, right? We adopted our children through foster care. So knowing that you can be that caring, compassionate adult in someone's life. And if someone doesn't have that, if they're orphaned, if they're in foster care and they don't have adults that really will stick up for them, and they have nowhere to go, it's so much easier to prey on them. And so they're just more likely to get involved.
Just a horrible reality.
Yeah.
That you're helping us learn about. So Janet, how real is this movie to life and to your own life?
It's inspired by true events that happened, and I wanted to make it fictional because I wanted people to watch it who might not otherwise care about foster care or otherwise care about trafficking. I've been mentoring a girl through an organization called Forever Found for the past 7 years. And initially I went through the mentoring program to learn about trafficking and about how to depict this. And then my heart broke and I wanted to get involved. So I started getting involved on a personal level. And the stories that I've heard, I didn't use this particular young woman's story. I used other stories that I learned through the training and through law enforcement that are on the front lines. There have been people who've given me their stories. And even shooting the movie, we had law enforcement who actually helped me during the prep process come on as extras. They came on as featured extras to help teach us the proper moves, the way that someone would orchestrate the different things that were going on in the movie. And one of the movie's themes is inspired because it's a ensemble cast. And one of the stories is inspired by a little boy that was in foster care. One of my producing partners had a little boy that they found in a car and he was almost dead. His parents had left him there in the heat in a car. And so we wanted to create a character thinking about how his life, and these parents kept moving from county to county. So as soon as he would almost get adopted, they'd change counties so that he wouldn't get adopted. And so we thought, okay, what if this boy was grown up? How would this affect him? Or if he had been in group homes, all this. And so that was one of the characters. And then so many people that I know who struggle with addiction, sex addiction. I've met many people who feel like, they're the buyers. I wanted to know, why is it a multi-billion-dollar industry who's buying? And when I pulled back the curtains, I realized these aren't horrible people. It's not a story about good versus evil, but about people capable of both. And I want people to understand their part in it. And so I showed some stories I know of men who it's majority men that are buying, even though there are a lot of women buying. It's a majority girls that are being trafficked, even though there's a lot of little boys being trafficked. So I show boys and girls being trafficked, but sort of in the percentages that is true to life. And I just wanted to pull back the curtain and say, look, we can all do something. And I also show the vulnerable youth, these technology, the phones these kids are on at really young ages, and the addiction to pornography that's happening, creating an epidemic. So yeah, it's inspired by all that kind of stuff.
Flashing my mind back to all these scenes. And yeah, I would not, I don't think we try to do this as a date night, my husband and I, but we definitely, we have not let our children see it just yet. My kids are currently 13 and 14. And Jen, I think before we got on, you were saying that you've let your son now watch it. So just kind of bear that in mind, listeners, as you're thinking through highly, highly conversational, great, important content. I would say get your girlfriends together, get a, bunch of people that families that you're involved with together. So Janet, when we think about this kind of ecosystem around human trafficking, because it's you can be thought of like, oh, that's over there, and it's just like this kind of person that there's really a lot of complexity to it that you really convey through the film. What types of people are involved? Because this to me is like shocking and just like leaves me speechless at times of like how interwoven it is into everything.
Well, Marcy, I think that's one of the reasons that I want teenagers to see it. Young teens, like my son who's 14, I wanted him to see it because our children right now are inadvertently being exposed to trafficking at really young ages. If you have a son or a daughter playing games and they're interacting on a chat, they have no idea who they're chatting with. And it can be somebody who has a picture posted that looks like someone their own age. It can be someone they've talked to for 6 months that they think are their own age. But predators are on there looking for opportunities for our kids. I don't think any child under the age of 16 should have social media on any of their devices. I don't think phones should be given to kids until they're 14 or about when they're at that maturity level and then locked down. We have something called Pinwheel on our son's phone so that my husband and I see every text. You have it too?
It's a no internet phone.
Yes.
That's
And
great, Janet.
well, because I know so much and I don't.
Yes.
The other day, a friend of mine told me that they were in a parking lot at their daughter's school and someone put a tracker underneath the car. And luckily, the girl heard it hit the car and said there was a weird person walking around and put it there. And we don't know whether that person had seen the daughter on the internet and known where she went to school and where she went. Because what people don't
Wow.
realize is kids at 14 think they know and they want relationship. And online is where you're getting relationships. And so what movies depict usually is this scary looking person who's going to come after, but it's not a scary looking person. Art, it's a person who's got issues, who's buying children, but they look like anybody else, and also traffickers. So if you think about foster youth, there's a lot of trafficking happening in the group homes because what'll happen is a kid will get trafficked and then they're given this, Sophie's choice, whether you're either going to traffic your friends or you're going to be trafficked more. You can stop trafficking it, but help us, or, someone goes and is emancipated as a foster youth at 18 and they need a place to stay. And some nice guy or gal gives them a place to stay and it's for free because they don't have any money and they stay there for 6 months and they become friends. It's the only person they really know outside of being emancipated. And then that person says, now you owe me. And now you got to just do these things in order to pay me back. A lot of times ways people get trafficked is if they, like I say, be the one caring, compassionate adult. Shame traps people. So if we can say to our kids, nothing you do will ever be something that you can't come to me. I will love you no matter what you do, and not be so shocked or upset when kids make mistakes, because we're going to make mistakes, to expect mistakes, to not expect perfection, and to let them know that you're safe. And that you will always be there for them, and have a word for them too. Like I have a safety word for my son so that if he calls me and he uses this word, then the trafficker could be right there next to him and they won't know the word, but I'll know that there's something happening. So it's just that kind of thing. But you asked me how prolific. Rachel said Rachel Thomas, at the very end of the movie, we have a survivor get on and talk about it. And she was trafficked during college. She was at a top college and she looks like a model. She could model. And a modeling agent came up who had models on his arms, had a real website. She went for a photo shoot. It seemed legit. She took a friend to the first photo shoot. And then when she went back after she booked a job, she had filled out a W-9 because she had booked the job. So she needed to give, and she was at college. So she gave her parents' address. And then he used that to manipulate her to say, I'll take your parents out if you don't do what I'm asking. So she thought she was protecting her parents, and she was trafficked for a couple of years before she was saved. And she said, if she'd seen this movie as a kid, she doesn't think she would have been trafficked as a teen. So I say, as soon as you think your kids are ready, please watch it, discuss it, talk about how these things can happen everywhere.
To empower them. I'm taking this a different angle now that they're a little bit older. Yeah, that's so hard, Janet, right? Like part of me is thinking, wow, this is happening. This is absolutely crazy. And then part of me is questioning, like, Janet, how did you get the grit, the idea, the oomph, I don't know what other word to use, to say, I'm not just going to see this happen. I need to show other people and teach them it's happening because we can prevent it. Like, so where did all that? Because you could have just been like, oh my gosh, that's awful, and moved on. Why did this matter so much to you?
Yeah, well, when my oldest daughter was 16, heard about trafficking from a teacher at her school who said that a nonprofit organization was having a fundraiser, and it happened to be on my daughter's birthday. So she asked us, my husband and myself, if for her 16th birthday we would go to this fundraiser. And it was for this organization, Forever Found, the one that I currently work with that I love. And all the proceeds of our film is going to that one, another organization that helps foster youth, Raising Hope, and then another anti-trafficking, which is Zoe International. Great organizations. But anyway, so I'm sitting in this room with my daughter at this Forever Found fundraiser, which happened to be their very first fundraiser. And a woman was standing there talking and telling her story of being trafficked. And when I heard her story from a woman, because I'd heard of it, but sort of vaguely, to hear someone tell her story being trafficked from San Diego, this beautiful young woman, tell her story, I said, I got to do something. And I wanted to bring the whole world into that room because I thought if we were all sitting here, we'd all know we have to do something. It was just impossible to walk away because it was someone's story. And I think when we really see it happening, we have to do something. And so I wanted a movie because that's my way of bringing the whole world into that room. But I also felt like making it more like a crime thriller would attract people who might not otherwise want to go into a room to hear about trafficking. So that was the point of it. And I just feel like it's been just a gift to be able to use what, the gal who founded Forever Found is a beautiful singer. Her song's in our movie at the end. Her name's Shannon Sergi. And she has this beautiful song, Daddy, that was inspired the first time a time that she saw a 12-year-old girl being trafficked by her dad up and down the coast. And she left that meeting and wrote the song, just inspired to write the song. And so she says, use your art to help fight trafficking. And so her impetus for us that night was use your art. And I went, oh, I'm an actor. Someday I'll act in it. But then I just felt really compelled that I had to write it because it sort of became more and more my story. I kept learning more and just going, I don't want someone else to tell the story and exploit people in the making of it. I've seen trafficking movies where people are actually exploited in the making of it because you see too much. I just wanted to make it nobody sees anything. You might imagine it, but you don't see anything. So I didn't want to exploit anyone in the making of a film about not exploiting people. So it became important that I directed as well after I wrote it because I thought, and I co-wrote it with an ex-LAPD who's also a brilliant writer who offered his services. He said, how can I help? And I said, help me write this. Help me look at the law enforcement aspects. And he's just a great writer. So Dan Haran and I co-wrote it.
How powerful. So some of our listeners might have started Googling and they're like, wait a second, it's rated R, but you just said, and you're right, like it is rated R, but it's a lot of, and in your mind, what you think might be happening. You're not exposing anything on the screen.
Yeah. And we are rated R because we showed brief drug use. Ultimately you get rated R, apparently, if you use brief drug use on screen, although I have seen PGs that have brief drug use. So I'm like, okay. But anyway, I kind of was okay with the R rating. I could have made a PG version, but I felt like, you know what? I would love parents to see it first to decide because every child and every parent's different. And I feel like giving parents or giving older kids an opportunity to see if their younger siblings should see it and letting everybody, because there is a trigger warning because it's a tough subject. So I feel like I hope that people will recognize that I didn't exploit anyone. You don't see anything, but it is tough. I've had people who've dealt with some trauma in their own life have walked out and then come back and seen it. One woman, Aetna sponsored us. We went around the country with a Sprinter van with magnetic posters on the side of our car and went to 13 different locations in 26 days to show it as events. And wow. We would have a one-off and then have the nonprofits and the frontline advocates there in the theater to be able to encourage people to get involved. And I don't know. I was telling you, the gal who saw it from Aetna walked out the first time. And I went, oh, she's not going to want to be involved. She left. And then she called me and said, I want to be involved even more. It really hit me because it's so realistic. And then she did watch the whole thing a couple times after, but she had been triggered because she had some of her own experiences. So I think sometimes you have to just take it away. Like your husband, he's empathetic. He stopped it for a minute and then watched it again. And I think because I make it real, I make it realistic.
You do. And it's intense. I mean, it's not a flowery story. It just is. I mean, you made it very real. And I commend that so much because I think to the point of how you titled the film of Wake Up, to me, it really opened my eyes and I felt like not that you were like violently shaking me, but I felt like it was like, do you see this? Like, open your eyes, like, look at what's around you.
Yeah, and each of us is so gifted differently, right? So I was
Yeah.
hoping that through seeing it, everybody'd see themselves in it in some way. And if they are impacted by it, that they'd either give money to a nonprofit, either through the our website where we have 3 that we've chosen to give to, or any that are in their area that are on the front lines, or they'll understand how they're actually participating in trafficking. I think a lot of people think that pornography is not hurting anyone. It's like, but the majority of pornography, according to Rachel Thomas, who's on the Presidential Advisory Board for Human Trafficking, the woman who speaks at the end of our film, Rachel told me that she believes at least 98% of all pornography is made with people who have been trafficked. So if people
Mm.
are watching pornography, there's no way they're not watching people being trafficked unless they've only watched it once and happened to find that 2%. If anyone is under the age of 18, it's it is automatically trafficking if someone's watching someone under the age of 18. And there's no way to know ages when you're watching pornography. And pornography is never done beautifully, like the way that it's supposed to be, a real love relationship and in a wholesome way. It's never done that way. I mean, sex is wonderful, but used in the wrong way, it's so hurtful because it really connects people. The two become one, like it's an intimate thing. And you can be so hurt by it. And so just hoping to wake up people that how dangerous pornography is. It's a drug like heroin. They say it's more addictive than heroin, and it escalates like every other drug. Every single serial killer had a porn habit. Every single one. And so
Wow.
you're like, oh wow. Like Jeffrey Dahmer, there's a thing where he did a speech on death row where he's interviewed and he talks about his pornography, that he believes that that really was what pushed him to be such a maniac, because people don't, you know, little children aren't waking up and wanting to do this. But then you're looking on playgrounds now with kids who are 7 who are on social media and they're seeing it early, early, early. And then at age 12, they've been on it for 5 years and they've got a 5-year porn habit, and it's just changing our brains. I mean, you can do brain studies too and see all the different ways. But anyway, I digress. But I think it's really important.
Important information. Yeah. And especially hearing all of the research and knowledge and people that are part of this to help inform the film to be so real. It's amazing to me how you distilled learning so many important pieces and how all the things you're saying. I'm like, I remember that scene. Okay, okay, I understand how you did all that now. Like that's so fascinating. And yet such a reality, right? And so So I'm curious, what do you think, since there are children that are in foster care, they get entangled in human trafficking? What is it that the state or the system could do or is doing that can intervene for them? Because to me, it's like if we know that they're being pulled from this base of kids, like what can we do?
So when you say the state or the system, you and I both know because we've been working with the systems we're in for adopting our children through foster care. And there's a whole lot that's happening, and people try to make blanket laws to try to help. And sometimes those are helpful and sometimes they're not. And I actually play the role of a foster mom in the movie because I wanted to show how oftentimes the laws we have are actually hurting our children. So if we as individuals, as we as audience members can each take the responsibility rather than giving it to the state or giving it to the government to do for us, if each of us personally were the caring, compassionate adult in a child's life, the children in our own home being the safe space, opening our hearts and minds to fostering. And if you are not meant to foster, then supporting families that are fostering, getting involved, being a CASA worker, you can be a court appointed special advocate where you just go to court with your kids to sit there with them, and then you have a relationship with them. They're not your child. Like you and I adopted our children, which for me is a bigger blessing than anything. I gave birth to 3. I adopted 1. They're all the same. It's just gifts to have these children, amazing gifts. I think you can't outgive God. And I just feel like so blessed to have my son, like all my kids. But I just don't feel any different about fostering. If you plan to do it, it's a great thing to do, I think. But we all need to be that caring, compassionate adult. I don't think we can make enough laws. I think the laws will be flawed because in the circumstance in the movie that I show, you'll see how a caring foster family that really want a child aren't ultimately able to have the child, because there are laws that when you have a kid with you, if something happens to that kid, you lose the kid forever if you haven't been responsible enough, and you probably can't foster any other kids. Or, there's just laws. There are laws that are meant to protect, but sometimes they're just not nuanced enough. So I think instead of laws, I think we individually need to look for ways we can help support people. Just get to know the kids you're in your life, even if you don't have kids of your own. I mean, I think single people have the greatest opportunity because there's more flexibility to just get involved in other kids' lives and, volunteer at youth groups and go to the Boys and Girls Club, be a big brother, be a big sister, just care. I think if we do that, then hopefully that will take care of our states and our system. That's my opinion.
I think the solution is if we all can do a little thing, like how powerful that is. Because you're right. Like it's very easy to well, they should, or, point fingers. But in this scenario, we can all in some way do something. Mm-hmm. And that makes it better for everyone. Okay. So everyone's wondering, Janet, how do we see this? What do we do? And how can we bring more awareness to this issue?
Well, right now, Wake Up's on Amazon. And as I mentioned, I took the movie out and had it play in a theater, and we also have that option if people want to use the movie. I retained theatrical rights and educational rights so that if other people want to use the movie for their purposes, they can. So our website is really the best place to go, which is officialwakeupmovie.com. If you go to officialwakeupmovie.com, and on that website, you'll see the organizations that we're giving to, but you can buy it on DVD and Blu-ray, or you can stream it on Amazon right now. And I think it's also on Tubi right now, but the website will keep you up to date when it goes on other platforms. And it'll also have more information, and you can host a screening of your own. So you could have it for your college. You could have it. One teacher's doing it for their school. They're having a screening for their school. So journalism kids can have it, or people that are in social justice, or people that, all different ways that you can use the movie to help your community. And for organizations on the front lines in your community, using it to help advocate or to educate. We used it for law enforcement as an educational tool in Ventura County, where they used the movie to train their officers how to look for and how to look differently at, because it used to be people say, oh, that's a prostitute, rather than that person might have been prostituted. And how do we look at the complexity of this? And how do we really come alongside kids that are being exploited and people that are being exploited and vulnerable?
Such an amazing story that you were helping us all see with wide eyes open and giving us all. I love the learning the layers of this, that it's yes, it's for adults, and yes, it's for all of us, and yes, help our kids, and together we can do something to help our own families, to help our own communities, and we can help other people know too. Janet, this has been so good, and I'm so grateful. I can only imagine how much of your relentless energy went into all the different pieces and scenes and things. And so grateful that you came to share with us. And I hope that we'll all go and watch Wake Up, even if you have to pause, because it's worth finishing for sure.
Thank you so much, Marcy.
Listeners, did you know that you've helped the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast rank in the top 30% most followed podcasts on Spotify? You are helping waiting children be seen, and you're teaching our nation how to adopt these children. You can help this podcast reach more future adoptive parents by leaving a review and continuing to share this podcast with others. You can even help others know that instead of Googling to try to figure out how to adopt, they should go to ForgottenAdoptionOption.com, where they can learn the step-by-step process, tips for enduring the journey, and I even have a children's book to celebrate the forever families all around us. It means so much that you took the time to listen to this episode. And on behalf of the 113,000 children who each has a name, a story, and dreams, and deserves to grow up experiencing the love and support that is found in a forever family, I thank you so much for caring.